Hi, I'm Steven from Patchwerks, and today we're checking out the brand new Taiga from Pittsburgh Modular. This is a fully analog semi-modular synthesizer. So let's check out the top panel of the synthesizer here. We've got 3 oscillators here. Each oscillator has a bunch of variable wave shapes on here to choose from. You can FM it using the LFO. You can also modulate the wave shapes using the LFO as well. Moving on, we have a 4-channel mixer here, technically a 5-channel if you count this preamp section, which requires the patch bay. And then next to that, you've got a little LFO here, as well as a filter. This is a pretty cool filter because it's multi-mode, but you can combine what filter types you want to use. If you want to use low pass, band pass, and high pass altogether, you totally can. So then from there on, we've got 2 full ADSR envelopes. ADSR2 by default is mapped to the dynamics, your VCA, and ADSR1 is mapped to the filter. So this right here is your dynamics section. So there's 3 modes for your dynamics. There's your standard VCA mode, which is the single LED right here. And that just means the ADSR2 is tied to your VCA. If you move to the next one, you have a low pass gate, which is really cool. And then there's an alternate mode to the low pass gate where that puts emphasis on the pluckiness of it. You can also change the amount of resonance in your low pass gate with this knob right here, which I think is really cool. We do have one built-in effect with this Taiga. We have a delay here. We have a control over the mix, we have time, and then regen, also known as feedback. And then over here, you have a few buttons here to let you adjust your clock source. It can be internal or external if you're synced up to some sort of Midi device. You can turn on and off your arpeggiator. You can hold notes, and you also have octave up and octave down. And then the last button right here, this is just the shift button. So a lot of these buttons on the panel have an alternate mode. So to access those, you just hold the edit/ARP note button, and then you hit the other button. And then lastly, you have a pretty extensive patch bay here. Given that this is a semi-modular synthesizer, the patch bay lets you override the predetermined signal path within the synthesizer. There's this little corner right here. This is actually your Midi section. So this synth does take in 3.5 TRS Midi. You have clock out, pitch out, velocity out, gate out, as well as Midi CC or the mod wheel out. All right, so let's dive into some sound demos of this thing. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of use a single oscillator and go over the different variable wave shapes so you can just get a taste as to the type of timbres you can get out of it. So right now we're on the sine wave here. I can hit the seed button and it'll change to alternate wave shapes, as well as combinations of the two. As you can see, we're using sine wave as well as what looks like a triangle, but it's got a little bit of curve to it, not entirely sure. As you can tell, this thing gets pretty gnarly. And then this last one's just standard square wave with the pulse width modulation. And then now you can see it's like all the different wave shapes combined together. Get some really cool, almost like phasing effect with it. All right, so then let's check out the FM on here. So by default, the LFO right here is routed to the FM on all 3 oscillators actually. So right now the LFO range is a little bit slow. If we want to push the LFO into audio rate, we can hold the edit button and hit the filter mode button right here. As you can see in the yellow text, it says LFO range. So now, much higher range in your LFO speed. That's cool, kind of a sweet spot right there. So let's turn off the FM there, and let's check out the shape CV. So you can also modulate the shape parameter here using the LFO with this knob down here. By default, the LFO is tied to this knob. And then just like with FM, when you're using audio rate LFOs, there's also a sweet spot for the shape. Kind of like some like vowel timbres right there. Cool. So all of those different wave shapes and modulation sources on Oscillator 1 is applied to Oscillator 2 and 3. The only difference I noticed personally when playing with the 3 oscillators is the actual tuning range of the knobs. So Oscillator 1 has a fairly small range in terms of tuning, and I think that's because Oscillator 1 is meant to be used kind of as like your root note, like your bass note. And then if I turn up Oscillator 2 in the mixer here, actually I'll just turn off Oscillator 1. So with Oscillator 2, much larger range in tuning. Same goes for Oscillator 3. All right, so I just tuned the oscillators so they sound nice together. And now let's check out the filter. Currently, we're in low pass mode. Pretty subtle filter, I'd say. Let's check out the different modes. So here's bandpass mode. And then here's high pass. And of course we have resonance here. So let's go back to low pass. Yeah, it's a pretty resonant filter here. It gets pretty gnarly when you crank it. So the cool thing with this multi-mode filter here is that you can actually combine the different types of filters if you want. Like for example, right here, we have low pass and band pass. We can do band pass and high pass. We can do low pass and high pass. And of course, we can use all 3 of them together. Pretty cool. All right, so moving on, let's check out the dynamic section. Just want to show off the different dynamic modes on here. So right now we're on VCA mode. So you can see envelope 2 right here is controlling the VCA. You can tell by this light right here. Let me open up this filter too. Gets pretty short, pretty snappy. Give it some release. So now we're in low pass gate mode, and you can already tell, pretty plucky. Kind of classic low pass gate sound. There is an alternate mode to the low pass gate if I hit the mode button here. Now these 2 LEDs are lit up. So this mode is low pass gate, but with emphasis on the pluck. So you can hear there's a slightly sharper attack to it. And I can turn up the resonance of the low pass gate. It got pretty rowdy there to the point where I think it was actually clipping a little bit. And then further giving you more control over your low pass gate decay is this response knob right here. So on the far right here, you kind of have an exponential shape. And if I move it to the left, it becomes even more snappy to the point where it's just kind of just closes it off entirely, and you just hear kind of the transient of it. All right, and then lastly, let's check out this delay here. So we're just gonna turn up the mix here on the echoes. So when you change the time, you're gonna get some pitch shifting happening. The timing here can actually go pretty short to the point where it kind of becomes like almost like chorus flanger territory, but not really. Turn up the regen, which is just the feedback. Yeah, it gets pretty gnarly too, so gotta be a little careful with the regen on here. All right, so that's kind of like the basic raw timbres of the synthesizer. And let's just dive into some cool patches. All right, thanks for hanging out to the end here. I'm Steven from Patchwerks. See you next time.